What is happening, people? It is Brian Alsruhe, NEVERsate.com, and it's story time, so settle in. So recently, I got a text message from Brian Shaw, who is getting ready to launch a website called Strongman Academy that is going to be an awesome resource for strongmen all around the world, and he asked me to write an article for him. Yes. But when I asked him what he wanted me to write about, he just told me to tell my story about how I got involved in strongman because it is such a strange, convoluted, twisting, winding story that it seems almost unbelievable. And yes, I am aware that I already told this story on this channel. However, a lot of you have not heard it and there are some new additions to it. So I just want to take a couple minutes and explain how I got involved in this strongman game because like I said, there are so many twisting, winding roads, so many coincidences, so many things that have worked out along the way that it's too good of a story not to tell. That and the fact that not too many people are willing to read anymore. Yay, future. But I guess if I'm gonna tell my story, my strongman journey actually began back in high school, not because I was doing strongman, but because I come from the same little rural town in Carroll County, Maryland, as Mike Jenkins, and we went to high school together. Now, if you do not know who Mike Jenkins is, just Google his name because he is strongman royalty. Believe me, you've probably seen him if you're a fan of strongman whatsoever, but I'm assuming since you're watching this video or reading this article in Strongman Academy, then you already know who he is. Anyway, he and I, since we went to high school together, obviously we lifted weights together, and we were under the tutelage of a guy named Gene Brown, Coach Brown, who is a hard-nosed dude who just did amazing things. He would let us lift absolutely anything we wanted, as long as we either squatted, benched, or power cleaned first. And that really laid a lot of the groundwork for much of my strength of where it is today. Thank you, Coach Brown. And this man did so much above and beyond what any normal gym teacher would have done to help keep a bunch of unmotivated teenagers pushing towards some goals. He used to make up shirts that would say like a 400-pound squat shirt, and you could earn that. So you'd work up to a PR, and then you got to wear that shirt during your gym class, and it sounds stupid, but man, that was so motivating to me. He used to have a board where he put up your PRs. That is where the board idea came from for my gym. He also used to hold competitions where he would put on a bench your body weight, and you'd have to do it as many times as possible because he was trying to find out who the strongest person in our school was pound for pound. Now, this title used to go back and forth between Mike Jenkins and I all of the time. Now, don't get it twisted. Mike and I are two completely different species. We are not even close to the same thing. If I'm standing next to him, it looks like a dad with a toddler. It doesn't make sense. However, when it comes to pound for pound, we were able to go back and forth, and that is a lot of where my strength started getting built. Now, after high school, Mike left for college, I left for college, and we didn't really speak for about 4 years. Then we came back and amazingly started both training at the same gym. So we were both personal trainers at the time and we were coaching at the same gym, and we picked right back up on life and lifting and just joking around and having a good time. And it was around this time when he went out and started getting some strongman implements and started bringing them into the gym, and he was messing around. And he was getting ready to do his first competitions. He was always saying to me, man, you'd be so good at this. You need to do this. You need to do this. But being the young, naive individual that I was, all that I saw strongman was a bunch of big fat guys who couldn't move around, they were not athletic, and they hated conditioning. And at the time, I was super into MMA. I was training like a madman. I owned my own karate school. I was working like a dog for that, and that's where all of my focus was. Not so much on strongman, but as it often does, life threw a wrench in my plans and threw me a curveball, and I ended up getting a job with the US government to go do counterterrorism work for about a decade, and I pretty much disappeared off the map for the better part of 10 years. No one from my hometown I spoke to, no one had heard from me. I was just kind of gone. And during that time, Mike actually had been making amazing waves in the strongman world. I had seen him at World's Strongest Man on ESPN and on Christmas and all those things, and I was so excited for him. He had moved to Pennsylvania where he married his wife Carrie, and they opened up a gym. But we had kind of lost contact just because of time. You guys know how friends are. Life gets in the way. You kind of lose contact. It's not really that you're not friends anymore. You just don't speak as often. So that was pretty much where Mike and I were. So after running and gunning for the government for 10 years, I neglected my family. I neglected my friends. I pretty much gave up my entire life to go do that thing. And I decided it was time for a change because I didn't like the life that I was living at the time. Now, I knew that I wanted to start my own gym, but I had absolutely no idea where I began. Now, that entire time while I was traveling, all the money that I accrued, they would give us money to go eat dinner or go do whatever we had to do. I didn't spend any of it. I lived for 10 years off of protein shakes, apples, and peanut butter, fish oil also. But that was all I did. I saved all of my money. And then afterwards, my wife and I decided to sell our house so we would have enough startup capital to buy a couple pieces of equipment to start the gym. Which is all well and good, except for the fact that it still didn't solve the problem where I was going to sleep. So at this time, my wife was working part-time as a personal trainer at a Gold's Gym. Now she got involved with a very, very nice lady named Emily, and it just so happened that Emily was the wife of Mike Jenkins' first sponsor, David Lee. So Dave and I had never spoken, Emily and I had never spoken, we did not know each other at all, but there was this common link between Mike. However, Dave has a couple rental properties and he heard that we were looking for a place to rent, so he decided to take us on a drive, and on that drive, he told me all about his time with Mike, how he was his first sponsor, went all over the world with him to all different types of events and shows, to Worlds, to the Arnold, to all kinds of stuff. And right there during that car ride, he told me that Mike had spoken to him about me. He knew me from my YouTube stuff way back in the day, back when I posted under Alpha T Nation and I was just putting up my workout videos. He knew about me from there, so right on the spot, he was like, "You want to do your first strongman competition? I will sponsor you." Okay. The only problem was that I had never touched a strongman implement in my life. The only time I had ever seen a log or farmer's handles were when Mike brought those things into the gym over a decade ago. I still wasn't completely sure that this was something that I wanted to get involved in, but now I had more pressure on me. And Dave has a Christmas party every single year. And Dave told me that Mike was gonna come back for the Christmas party, so I better be there, and hopefully Mike would be able to talk me into doing this competition. And I had about a month before that Christmas party come up with a good excuse to give Mike and Dave as to why I wasn't gonna do the strongman competition, so I was racking my mind. But then on Thanksgiving morning, I was sitting in Charlotte International Airport and I got a text saying that Mike had died. So I found myself sitting alone crying in the middle of the airport, asking myself all the same useless questions that everyone asks when someone close to them dies that really there are no answers to. So instead of going to a Christmas party that year, we ended up going to Mike's funeral. And there, to speak to the type of person that Mike Jenkins was, literally strongmen from all over the world flew in and just to pay their respects, to show their love, to just be there with the family. And it was some of the most respectful, amazing people that I've ever met in my entire life. All these guys, it is a strange room when I am the smallest dude in there. And trust me, these guys are absolute monsters. I saw all kinds of the biggest names in the sport, and they're all there just for the family. And all these people were standing around and being super nice and super kind and awesome to me and awesome to everyone they were encountering, but all of them had kind of this strange vibration going on under the surface. It was a room full of dangerous men who know that they are dangerous men and have no reason to prove it. There was like a quiet intensity. Everyone had like an intensity in their eyes, and everyone was super nice and super positive and super loving. However, there was definitely an intensity there, and I knew right off the bat, I was like, these are my people. This is the type of people that I'm used to being around. These are the type of people that my friends are. This might be a good move for me. But while I was sitting there in the church just trying to hold it together, I just kept rolling over in my mind the promises that I made to Mike, just telling him that I would do a competition, I'd do a competition, I'd do a competition, and now coming to the realization that Mike would never ever see it. And that was hard. That was very, very hard. That was a hard lesson to be learned, that the words that come out of my mouth are not just words. So the next day I signed up for my first competition. Now for full disclosure, I probably had like a month to a month and a half to get ready for this thing, but I did not prepare at all. I figured I'm strong enough, I'm athletic enough, I'll be able to figure this out. I'll live my way through it. Do not worry about me. I'll figure this out. However, everyone that I spoke to was like, you are being stupid. Trust me, this is different than you're thinking. You're not good enough on your own to be able to do this. So the weekend before my first competition, I drove up with Dave to Carrie's gym, Carrie and Mike's gym, so that Carrie could spend a good amount of time with me, just teaching me some of the basics of the strongman implements that I was going to be competing with the following week. So in 7 days, I rolled into my first competition and I just went full potato. There was no technique, no cues, no anything. It was just literally me going out there and going as hard as I possibly could. I puked a bunch of times that day. I saw a dude break his pelvis literally in half doing a deadlift. That was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in strongman. And I ended up walking away with a first place trophy. I barely eked it out. It just was what it was, but I did get a ticket to the national championships. Now, a smarter man would have learned from this experience. However, I never really claimed to be that smart. So a couple months later, I walked into my first national championships thinking the same exact thing. I was like, you're athletic, you're strong, you can figure this out. these guys can't be that big, and I actually had the ignorance to believe that I was going to be okay. As it turns out, when you're going out to people before the keg over bar event and you're saying, hey man, how you do this? Number one, people look at you like you're an idiot, which I was. And number two, that may not be the best strategy if you plan on finishing well at nationals, and I got worked. I mean, worked. The nationals that year was in Reno, Nevada, so I had a long plane ride home that was full of regret and feeling a lot like I didn't belong. So I really decided at that moment that strongman probably wasn't for me. I'm just not strong enough for these guys. I'm not good enough for these guys. It's not where I really want to be. However, that's a long flight. And by the time that I landed, my mind had completely changed, and now I had Maryland Strongman 3 weeks away, and I was gonna go give that my best shot. But I said to myself, Self, if you're gonna do this, then you better do it right, so you better start training. So I really knuckled down and trained really hard for 3 weeks, then went into Maryland Strongman. Now, I was super surprised, because when I got there, it was about the 1 year anniversary of Mike's death. So Carrie had come home to visit his grave, and she ended up stopping by the competition because she knew some people there and just being involved in the strongman world. So that was super, super cool that she was there to see me compete and everything. And also Brian Shaw was there supporting one of his buddies, Andy. Andy is one of Brian's training partners as well as coaches, and you guys will know Andy's voice. If you've seen Brian compete, you have heard Andy's voice. He is just there. And Andy is stationed here in Maryland while Brian is still over in Colorado. So they don't get to train together very often anymore, but they're still very, very good friends. And now Andy trains at my gym pretty regularly. So after that first Maryland Strongman title, I just went on a whirlwind between this business, doing a bunch of competitions, learning from the best people that I possibly could, reaching out, networking, doing collaborations, just going all over the place, trying to make strongman a bigger part of my world. But the one thing that remained constant was Andy. Andy was always there giving me training advice, giving me ideas. He had been doing all types of contests, going away places with Brian Shaw, helping him out, and he was getting ready to go to the Arnold this past year with him, and he asked if I wanted to tag along. I think I could fit that in. But you don't really want to mess up the strongest man on the planet's competition plans. So I was hesitant. But after I spoke to Brian's wife, Carrie, she assured me that it was going to be fine, so they invited me in with open arms and treated me like family. We hung out literally the entire weekend, full access, saw everything, played around with Brian's kid the entire time, hung out with Carrie, hung out with Andy, tried to support Brian any possible way that I could, and all of us just gelled, man. It was such a cool experience. My world broadened, and seeing how those guys prepare, how those guys treat this sport, and how they get ready for things, man, it completely changed my outlook on what actually needs to happen to be good at this, as well as just to become a better person in general. And man, it was just such a cool experience, and it changed the man who I am. So I cannot thank Brian, Carrie, or Andy enough for that opportunity. And here I am now inside of my gym, inside of my awesome business that is going terrifically. I have multiple state titles, multiple regional titles. I am getting ready for my 4th national championships. I am writing an article for Brian Shaw on the Strongman Academy website. I really have no idea how all of this happened. But the one thing I am absolutely certain of is that no one ever becomes successful on their own, and I am no different. Without the love and support of my wife, my family, my friends, my gym family, just everybody, everyone that I mentioned in this video, all of you made my success possible. I can't even begin to thank you guys enough for everything that you have done and you shared. Really, all that success is some really kind people being super generous with their lives, and one stupid idiot being myself, willing to risk it all. You throw in 16 hours of hard work every single day, nonstop for 4 years, and that's pretty much how success happens, but it definitely didn't happen on its own. But that is kind of my convoluted, winding story of how I got involved in strongman. It really has so many different aspects where just life intertwined. I have absolutely no doubt this is exactly where I am supposed to be right now in my life. But if you ask me what my 5-year plan or my 10-year plan is, dude, I can't tell you what is happening 12 hours from now. It is just so chaotic and so crazy, and all that I know is that I'm going to be working hard, and I'm going to stay positive, and I'm going to make great things happen. The world moves out of the way for people who know where they're going, and I know exactly where I'm going. But like I said, guys, I did not do it alone. I could not have done it without such amazing support of so many awesome people. And I just thank every single person that helped me along the way. Anyway, guys, that is it for me. In a couple weeks, when Strongman Academy launches, make sure you go check that out and read my article and give it a like, because that might lead to more articles, which is really, really cool. That's something I'd like to do because I absolutely love what Brian is doing with this. You guys are gonna be blown away. It is terrific for strongman, terrific for strength athletes. It's gonna have so many resources that's not only gonna help your lifting, also your life. It is just super, super cool what's going on, and I'm beyond excited to be part of it. Guys, I thank you so much for sitting through this story and just staying with me. I will catch up with you guys later in the week, but until I do, go out, do something amazing for your lives. Keep working hard, people. Be nice to each other. And I'll see you then.